everyone. It's been months since we've given an update on Jordan or my family's health, and it's time for one, so here it is. After several failed treatment attempts in North American hospitals, including attempts at tapering and micro-tapering, we had to seek an emergency medical benzodiazepine detox, which we were only able to find in Russia. It was incredibly grueling and was further complicated by severe pneumonia, which we've been told he developed in one of the previous hospitals.
Over the last year, the Peterson family has unfortunately been going through a very rough time. Jordan's wife, Tammy, was diagnosed with kidney cancer, and while it seems that she's fortunately made a recovery, during the chaotic times Jordan developed a dependence on and bad reaction to benzodiazepine, and consequently has, and still is, suffering greatly. Considering this, I have to admit, I thought about postponing my reviews of his debates with Sam Harris, or perhaps even dropping them entirely. But after rumination, and based on a great many hours of his work that I've digested, I'm convinced that ceasing discussion and debate because of his circumstance would be nothing short of a disservice to the man. Part of cleaning your room is staying strong and keeping the wheel turning when someone you care about is out of action. So, I will continue my reviews, all while praying, in the non-literal sense, that Jordan and his family recover their health with haste. This is Do You Want to Build a Steelman?
See, one of the things that Carl Rogers said, the psychologist, was that one of the good way to have a discussion with someone is to tell them what you think they think until they think that what you said reflects what they said. But look, this is a really useful thing to know if you're ever having a discussion with an intimate partner, for example, is that you have to put their argument back to them in terms they agree with. It's very difficult.
During Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris's first live debate, Jordan opened by attempting to steelman Sam's position, and it was extremely effective. Not only did it convey an earnest desire to comprehend and engage Sam's views, but it also set the stage as one of honesty, intrigue, and above all, sincerity. In fact, it made such an impact that Bret Weinstein launched the second live debate by having Jordan and Sam steelman one another.
So, in an effort to get you up to speed on where we got yesterday, and I think the evidence is strong, we all felt, and the discussion online suggests that we actually accomplished quite a bit yesterday, that we made headway. In an effort to attempt to keep that momentum going, what we are going to do is we are going to have Sam and Jordan steelman each other's points from last night so that you can hear what that sounds like. Now,
and this went down so well that to kick off the third live debate, Douglas Murray echoed the same request.
But I've asked them if they would start this evening in the following way. You're all familiar with straw manning. Anyone who follows politics knows straw manning. But I've asked them to do the opposite tonight, to start by steel manning the arguments of each other, to present in the best possible, most fair, most rigorous light what they understand to be the other's argument on all of the major issues we're about to discuss.
Now, in my opinion, both Bret and Douglas made excellent moderators off and participants within the debates that they attended, and I actually think that of all four men, Bret is the one who came closest to saving the baby in the bathwater, but that's for another video. Anyhow, as Bret conveyed, steelmanning a view that you fervently reject is a lot harder than it seems.
for those of you who have ever tried steelmanning somebody's point with whom you have a severe disagreement, you know just how hard this is. So let's give them some leeway.
But as hard as it might be, steelmanning is a very strong way in which to start a debate. At best, it demonstrates that you understand your opponent's perspective. At worst, it enables you to correct any misconceptions, and in any case, it starts the debate where it should, on the central propositions. Or as Jordan put it,
If you ever want to think about something, that's exactly what you have to do, right? You want to take arguments that are against your perspective and you want to make them as strong as you possibly can so that you can fortify your arguments against them. You don't want to make them weak because that just makes you weak.
the opposite of steelmanning, of course, is, as Douglas implied, strawmanning, and it unfortunately occurs all the damn time. But it comes at a massive intellectual price. To reiterate Jordan's wise words, if you present someone's position as weaker than it is, then that just makes you look weak. Yes, you might get more traction, more views, and you might, to some, be perceived as an absolute legend that goes around destroying snowflakes and calmly educating those you disagree with. But make no mistake about it, you will lose intellectually, you just might not know it. And worse, you'll either come off as someone who isn't smart enough to comprehend the argument, facts, or data, or worse still, as someone who deliberately misrepresents facts that contradict your own view. This is one of the biggest reasons, for example, why creationists are seen as idiots or liars. They very, very, very rarely actually confront evolution by natural selection. They look like absolute legends to their flock, but absolute bellends to the rest of the world.
Behold the atheist's nightmare.
If the theory of evolution was viable, then I should, occasionally, by subjecting this to energy, end up having new life. Now, we go down to the store, and if I open this jar of peanut butter, maybe not often, but on some occasion, I should find new life inside.
The banana and the hand are perfectly made one for the other.
This is called the crocodile. Can you see this?
God, what a numbnut. There's no new life.
It's just the right shape for the human mouth.
A fairy tale, pure and simple. Life from non-life, apart from God's direct intervention, is a fairy tale.
Oh, irony. Oh, you never let me down. Of course, it's not just pseudoscientific groups that are guilty of strawmanning. Unfortunately, because of predominantly social media, most groups are importing hate by the truckload. The way that social media makes money is through views, interactions, and watch time, and so they are incentivized to recommend us content similar to what we already digest. Now, I'd argue that this is a great thing when it comes to topics such as gaming, music, beauty, and sports, but when it comes to politics and religion, it's bad. Really bad. It causes further division, encourages tribalism, motivates people to be uncharacteristically nasty, and it causes a total breakdown of conversation. What's that? You don't think that we should cease fossil fuels immediately? Must be a bourgeois Nazi. What's that? You have an issue with state services sticking "In God We Trust" on their vehicles? Must be a screeching soy boy. In my opinion, what we desperately need in this world is a lot more honest conversation. We have the freedom to say what we want and access to more information than any civilization before us, but we have to stop depicting each other as monsters, because we don't talk to monsters, we slay them. And so the reason I'm dedicating a whole video to Steelmanning is because I want to encourage everyone to do it more often. It might not always be the most appropriate way to start a debate, but if done earnestly, it sets a very productive and respectful stage. And if it's done in a public arena, it encourages everyone listening to pay more attention. After all, if someone that you disagree with accurately represents your views, then maybe, just maybe, they know a criticism that you do not. Talking of which, coming into these debates, on the topic of religion, I was poised against Jordan. His seemingly deliberately obtuse use of language, his incessant betrayal of atheists as monsters, and his refusal to be upfront about his views infuriated me.
Do you believe that Jesus rose again from the dead? Literally.
I cannot answer that question.
But once I saw him accurately and earnestly represent Sam's position, I put all of this baggage aside and gave him another chance. And while I still profusely disagree with Jordan's views on religion, and especially his rhetoric, I think he actually did a good job of illuminating the problem with Sam's moral landscape, which I'll dedicate a whole video to soon. But the central point here is this. By Steelmanning his opponent's view, Jordan set the stage in an extremely productive way, and for that I'm not only grateful, but inspired. We live in a wonderful epoch, courtesy of the Enlightenment, in which free speech is granted and information is ubiquitous, and to do anything but venerate and preserve these gifts would be an egregious disservice to both ourselves and our children to come. Anyhow, as always, thank you kindly for the view, and an extra special thank you to my wonderful patrons and those of you who have supported the channel via other means. You all absolutely rock, dudes. I really, really appreciate it.
And so, Sam and I are both scientists, and it really is the case that what scientists are trying to do, and I think what we're actually trying to do in this conversation genuinely, is to try to find out if there's something that we're thinking that's stupid. You know, because when I'm laying out the arguments that Sam just summarized so well, I've tried to generate a bunch of opposition to them in my own imagination, and the arguments I put forward are ones I can't undermine. But that doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't mean that at all. And so if someone comes along who's, and this is certainly the case if you're a scientist who's worth his or her salt, if someone comes along and says, hey, look, you made a mistake in this fundamental proposition, it's like, yes, great, that means I can make progress towards a more solid theory of being.